Hey guys, welcome to Parents Against Alienation. My name is AJ, and today I really wanted to talk to you candidly about parental alienation and then how it relates to, in conjunction with the other party, the other parent not paying child support and not following other court orders. So, and by the way, when I say parental alienation, I actually prefer to use the term child psychological abuse because I think that's more appropriately descriptive of what's happening, at least in my case. Parental alienation is kind of like, it's what's happening to me, and it's true. I'm an alienated parent. I didn't get to see my children. One of them for 2 years, the other for 3 years, and I have a very strained relationship with both of them. And the third one is functioning pretty well, actually. So thankfully, he's going back and forth and living with me. But and in my case, actually, all 3 kids were living with me full time. And but the reason I like the term psychological child abuse, I get them mixed up, is because that's what's really going on, is that the child is being psychologically abused. They've had their relationships ripped away from them, and people don't understand why. Why is this going on? What is happening? How did a relationship with my child go from pretty good, I don't want to say great, I don't want to overestimate what it really was, but it was a really good relationship, to extremely strained and absolutely having no contact with that child for years. And the only thing that really makes sense is that they have been unknowingly convinced into rejecting the parent, the targeted parent. And that causes them all sorts of trauma. These children struggle, and I see it in my daughter. I've been having some visitation times with her, finally, which is great. But it's a struggle, It's not easy. We have good and strained times. But what I see in her is that she was abused. Now, here's the thing. The child does not think that. They don't. They think it was their idea. I hear that all the time. Every single time it comes up. This was my idea. This had nothing to do with my dad. But we know there is. We know there's involvement, right? We know it's not just the child being this demon child who's excessively judgmental, and because they no child should be cutting off a relationship with their parent, and in these cases they do. So anyway, back to the original idea of this video is to talk about the other parent not following court orders. So in my case, it started 13-ish years ago is when we went through our divorce. And child support right off the bat wasn't there. In fact, he threatened me that if I did go to ORS to ask for child support, then he threatened that he would divorce me, which I should have taken him up on much sooner than I did. But at the time, it felt like just another threat. It was what it was. It was a threat. And at the time, it felt very scary to me. That's what it was, because I didn't see it for what it was. I just was scared every time he did some of these things, or said some of these things. And so I didn't file for child support right away. But after some time, I did. And then, I can't remember dates, and I won't go into that kind of detail on this, but I will just tell you that the amount of child support he was ordered to pay is very small, in the low hundreds, for 3 kids, in the low hundreds. And so it's hardly anything. It really wasn't much for me to provide them with, but that's what I got, so that's okay. And I built my life. Then after a few years, and actually, you know what? Actually, no. In the beginning, there really was none paid. After a few years of having none paid, he wanted to be able to do something religiously, and they said he couldn't because he hadn't been paying child support. So he had his dad pay. His dad paid me with a cashier's check, and I got paid up in full child support to date at that point, so that dad could then go and perform this ordinance for their child, for our child. But it came with a caveat. I got the check that weekend, and on the drive home with my little kiddos, they all started screaming at me and saying, "Mom, how dare you? Why would you steal money from Dad? Dad says you stole money from him. How could you do that?" And the anger continued for days. How was I feeling? Quite pissed off, right? What the heck? That is completely asinine what just happened. How could he do such a thing? And I did my best to work through those really difficult conversations with my kids, and they were really young. And I tried my best to just convey to them in a way that sort of answered their questions, but didn't delve into it, because I knew, one, I'm not going to go there with my kids, because I'm not going to be low and dirty like that, like the other side is. Two, I'm court ordered not to. I'm going to follow the rules the best I can. And three, they have no framework of understanding this anyway. So why? So I did my best to work through it. And I mean, this is 10 years ago, so I don't remember what I said, but I do remember knowing that for the longest time, I kept my mouth shut on a lot of things, wanting to, explain, but knowing I shouldn't. And so I didn't. I just did my best. And time moves on, and children have a way of forgiving and being beautifully resilient, right? And so I just let it go. I let it go. Moved on. I may have texted him and said, "Why are you doing this?" I don't remember, but I don't think I did. Fast forward, and mind you, that happened a number of times. It wasn't just once. Fast forward, and he stops paying child support again. And we get to I'm thinking about a few things right now. There's several things along the way. Shortly after that happened, I had some other experiences with him that didn't have to do with child support, but essentially throughout the years, he didn't pay child support. He never paid for any of the children's medical. I haven't received any reimbursement. Every single bit of that is in a judgment. And I'm sorry about the pause back then. Like I said, this is not scripted, so forgive my moments where I'm going to be lapsing in memory. And particularly as I dig through some of these. In fact, I should be looking at my chronology that I put together. That would help me remember stuff better. But I digress. So we go throughout the years, and fast forward to, just a few years ago, and I got a judgment entered for the amounts that he owes me. And it's in the form of a judgment, and he was ordered to pay $25 a month towards the outstanding amounts owed. And those outstanding amounts owed are significant, because when you have, and I'm skipping over a lot of details, this is very high level, but when you have 13 years of child support, and of those 13 years, I would venture to guess that he's somewhere in the ballpark of having paid for approximately 4 of those years, so not very much. There's a lot of outstanding money owed, and it's in the form of a judgment and all of that. So we get that, and my attorney says to me, get this is sad, but the courts give you a judgment, and you're very excited about this judgment, and then they do nothing to help you collect it. Now, they did tell me, and they did order in that he had to pay at least $25 a month. And when you owe, almost 6 figures, how far does $25 a month go? It's going to take a long time to pay off that debt at $25 a month. But that's basically the court. I was advised by my attorney the court wouldn't order him to pay more than that. That as long as he was paying that he would be out of trouble. So pretty sad, right? You would think the courts would do a whole lot more, and they don't. And then when it comes to terms of collection on that judgment, I haven't collected. No, haven't collected. So, there's most of it still outstanding is what I'm trying to say. So he's really avoided paying this for a long time. About 4 or 5 years ago, there was a court hearing where he was ordered to pay, and if he didn't pay child support, medical, and $25 towards the judgment, all of the sanctions that they were withholding from implementing would be implemented, and that would include jail time, fines and penalties, attorney's fees, etc. So that's out there. So that's nice. But if anybody knows how much it costs and how much time and energy and stress it takes to get to that place, and then to get there again, nobody wants to do it. I don't want to do it. I don't want to go back to court again to enforce this. What good is it going to do? Not a lot, right? And so fast forward. So here we are now. I have got 2 alienated children. And this will be another video. Okay, the failures of attorneys, by the way, my gosh, it's awful, is I'm trying to collect on it. And at least in one attempt to collect on that, it got back to the children, of course, because he feels he can talk about such things. And so now the children are saying, Mom, I can't believe it. Or no, not Mom. First name, my first name. I can't believe you would do that. That seems morally wrong, is what I was told by one of my children. That it was morally wrong for me to try and collect on this, even though they know that he owes me money, that it was morally wrong of me to try and collect in the way that I was. And it wasn't wrong. It was completely legal and totally approved and just fine. But, the kids don't have a way of understanding this because they've never been there. They don't know. They've never been in my shoes. They've never been in his shoes. They have no idea. They just know they don't want to ever have a divorce because it sucks. When you have a parent who is doing the types of stuff that my ex is doing, and that these alienating parents do, the children suffer so much. And so I guess in summary, what I would just say is that there's something about the alienating parent, the abusive parent, that they, at least in my case, really struggle paying child support to the other parent, and they use that as a method to, essentially get out of paying what they're supposed to pay, manipulate the conversation with the child so that the child thinks and aligns with the abusive parent. And so the alienating parent, the targeted parent really suffers a double whammy. Not only did I not get paid child support, but then he twisted the kids' minds into thinking that if he did pay, which it was his dad who paid, if he actually paid, then I was stealing money from him. Not he couldn't have called the child support that he needed to pay for the child. He had to say I was stealing from him, and that I was morally wrong for trying to collect on this. And they completely are swindled, 100%. They are totally in alignment with what he is thinking, and they have no compassion or mercy for my situation at all. And I'm telling you right now that, personal interjection of feelings here, it sucks. I mean, it really, really is one of those really bitter things, because not only did I raise them practically alone with very, very little help from him, constantly being in litigation with him because he's constantly suing me with no money and claiming not to have money, but continuously taking me to court and never paying child support unless he's forced to at threat of jail time. And then at the end of the day, because here's the thing, I never cared about the money. I went 5 years. That was my longest stretch with nothing. 5 years with nothing, going through school, putting myself through school and trying to provide for 3 kids as a single parent, raising them full-time myself. I didn't care about the money. At some point, I was like, I don't care. The kids will grow up. They'll know I was the only one that provided for them. What I cared about is the relationship with the children. And when that was taken from me, that's where the bitterness came in, right? That's where we struggle as parents, as alienated parents, that we could do so much. The other parent could hurt us so much, and then end up doing the ultimate, most painful thing that can happen, which is to take the relationship with the child away from us. And so that's how it happened for me. There's a lot more details that go into it, but that's the high level experiences I had. I want to hear from you guys. If there's anyone else out there who's going through this, please comment. I'm in the thick of it. I don't know everything. I want to share what I know. I want to be helpful. I don't know if this is helpful to listen to other people's stories, but I can tell you that, having gone through it, there's a lot of things you learn, and then there's just kind of like the high level, what I would, surmise and summarize for others who are going through this is that, you can think that there's justice for these things, and you can think that, oh man, if I go do this court thing, I'm going to get justice. They're going to be really pissed off at this person. And in some ways, there's minor justice, right? But ultimately, I'm sorry, I have like an itch here and a hitch on my nose. Sorry about that. Ultimately, the justice is little. What justice I have actually had, he's gotten away from accountability, from all of the justice. And so you never feel like you're getting, like there's ever going to be accountability. And it's a waste of money in a lot of ways. Sometimes you got to go to court, but I would say if you can avoid it, do, because they don't help you find justice for this. And certainly not with alienation. They don't care. And I will kind of summarize on that point, is that in terms of when a court, facilitator like the judge or the commissioner sees an alienation case, the last thing they care about is money. They don't care that the other party's not paying. You can bring a motion for that, but they ultimately care about basically giving the child what they want, and making the child feel comfortable. And at least in my case, they're not going to be very sympathetic to your financial pleas and woes. And so I'm in the thick of this. I'm trying to figure out what to do, and it's a difficult place to find peace, but that's what I'm aiming for, and that's what we all want, is to find peace in this hell, this turmoil that we call parental alienation. So if you have any suggestions or thoughts or experiences, please share them down below, and I'll see you in another video.